Welcome to our podcast, where we will be discussing uncovered histories, where we dive into the lesser known tales and intriguing theories that shape the course of history. I'm your host, Adrina, and with me are.
I'm Cole.
I'm Felicity.
I'm Charlotte.
And today we will explore the multifaceted conspiracies to eliminate Adolf Hitler and the lesser known attempts that all failed. Let us all begin with well-documented plot to assassinate Hitler. The conspiracy dubbed Operation Valkyrie sprang of a complex interaction of resistance, ethical, and strategic considerations inside Nazi Germany.
So in terms of key figures, right, let's start by introducing Klaus von Stauffenberg. The officer was part of the German army as well as the revolutionist group against Nazi leader Adolf Hitler, in case no one's heard of the guy. But basically, Stauffenberg played a crucial role in the attempted assassination of Hitler. Many high-ranking military officials sought to assassinate Hitler due to moral objections against his policies, concerns about the devastating war he was leading Germany into, and also the compromised integrity of the armed forces.
I agree. Officer Stauffenberg was a main revolutionist. It was said that he was scared of the communist beliefs that would come after Hitler won the war and installed his regime in Germany. It was also already mid-1944. Russia had joined the war, and they could feel the pressure from both sides from the Allies closing in. You could say the plot was also a reflection of the civilians' growing dissent against Germany towards this point in the war.
Right. There was a lot of pressure involved with those decisions as a whole. Initially, there were discussions about using poison gas, particularly from resistance members like Henning von Trexel. However, it never really went through due to concern for civilian casualties and also the unprecedented aftermath as a whole. The final plan, though, was to kill Hitler, mobilize the reserve army, and get them to believe that the SS started a coup and killed Hitler, allowing them to be taken to prison, and just like that, the Nazi regime would have been gone.
Except it didn't exactly go as planned. Stauffenberg was in a meeting with Hitler in the Wolf Slayer, which was basically just Hitler's hideout. The plan was that he would carry a bomb into the meeting through a briefcase and then step out to take a call. So then when the bomb went off, he could just return to Berlin like nothing happened.
Well, I would say it did go as planned. It just didn't kill Hitler. It killed 3 officers and hurt Hitler's arm and back. But it just didn't kill him. But because everyone thought Hitler died initially, Stauffenberg then was able to call on the reserve army and start arresting the SS. About 3 hours later, the man himself, Hitler, made a radio announcement that he was still alive and just wouldn't be killed by these cowardly acts.
Yeah, and in the end, all the German military officers, mail runners, privates, government officials, and also the generals were either imprisoned, hung, they either killed themselves, or they were killed by the firing squad, like our dear friend Klaus von Stauffenberg.
There are also some other factors to consider and why it didn't work exactly as planned. That is to say, how can we explain the delayed detonation? The bomb was originally intended to be 2 parts instead of 1, but since Stauffenberg had to meet time constraints, he had to actually put it into a single device. In essence, this led to the overall delay because the 2 components didn't properly work together for the bomb to go off at the right time.
Well, what about Operation Flash, or also called Operation Spark? It happened a year before Valkyrie.
Well, essentially, Hitler was scheduled to fly to East Prussia to examine the war efforts in early March of 1943. The plan was for Henning von Trest to give a bottle of liquor as a present to another officer who was flying with Hitler. With the bomb on the underside of the bottle, it was meant to explode mid-flight. But the problem was the fuse was done incorrectly, so there was no explosion and just some funny tasting liquor.
Well, it was apparently also because there was not enough time for the fuses to melt down, and in turn the parcel bomb could not be activated. It really does make you wonder if Hitler was simply a lucky guy. I mean, he was able to walk freely from all of these back-to-back assassination attempts. And I almost want to call the guy a World War II version of Deadpool.
Now let's look into the fascinating group of the Jewish American gangsters illegally plotted to murder Hitler in 1933. Their concept arose as people became more conscious of the Nazi regimes of anti-Semitic attitudes and the looming threat to Jewish communities.
Supposedly, rumors throughout the country started to spread as word broke about Jewish treatment in Nazi Germany. This huge boycott happened in New York in 1933, and about 1,500 Jewish Americans participated. I wonder if the people there started the plot.
Who knows? I mean, Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, Arnold the Brain Rothstein, Meyer Lansky, and Louis Lepke Buchaler, who were four of the most notorious Jewish mobsters, were all still around back then. No one could really say if they started plotting from that moment forward.
I'm guessing that's where the conspiracy comes in.
It's definitely a fascinating idea. Though there isn't as much hard proof connecting those popular Jewish mob figures to the plot, the timing and the rise of the anti-Semitism may have sparked conversations and undercover activities.
Well, it's important to note, too, that these gangsters had strong relationships inside their local communities, and also they were organized in crime, basically. And therefore, it's not totally absurd that they would intervene to save their people against Hitler's rule.
Exactly. If there had been a conspiracy of this kind, it would have been important players due to their reputation and influence in the Jewish American community. It's essential to bear in mind that there is still a great deal of mystery surrounding the specifics of these supposed plans, making it difficult to determine what they may have set up.
Likewise, the fact that these gangsters worked in a secretive environment may add even more fascination to the narrative. It's actually pretty probable that they worked with people who were similarly concerned about the Nazi dictatorship by tapping into their underground ties.
It's an intriguing piece of history that serves as a reminder that unexpected partnerships and acts can arise in times of chaos. The notion that the Jewish American mobsters were a part of to attempt to kill Hitler is proof that the extreme lengths some were prepared to go in order to protect themselves from the Nazi peril, even though we still will never know.
Yeah, and I read that the FBI actually got involved with the real suspects and stopped anything from happening. Little did the feds know, though, that those guys could have prevented World War II if it wasn't for that interference.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to think how many potential cover-ups the FBI could have been a part of, prevented, or even doubled down on to prevent this type of stuff.
What's crazy is that's not actually the only conspiracy about Hitler and potential cover-ups.
What else is there?
Well, there was a whole TV show on the History Channel back in 2015. It was called Hunting Hitler, and it had to do with the conspiracy theory that Hitler didn't really die in the bunker.
I remember hearing something about that. Isn't it true they never found his body in the bunker?
That's right. It's crazy how much of an audience that conspiracy theory really drew. They sent people all across the world investigating old escape tunnels, flights that could have taken off, and possible German hideouts in Argentina. I'd love to look more into that in the future.
I agree. It would be pretty interesting to discuss some of the future episodes, but for the sake of our time and restraints, let's keep this topic on Hitler's conspiracies.
All right, well, another topic we investigate is the 1943 Tehran Conference. Conspiracy theorists present an alternate story as to what is publicly reported as a vital gathering to organize against Nazi Germany.
Well, it was the big three leaders, right? Churchill, FDR, Stalin.
I know it was the big three, and the Tehran Conference was supposedly the three meeting to discuss the future strategies of war and the consequences for Nazi Germany after they won, but I never knew there was a conspiracy behind it.
You're right. This was a crucial point in history when these leaders debated over post-war plans as well as war strategy. Conspiracy theories, however, usually center on the possibility that the conference also had discussions of covert agreements or other secret intentions.
But let's still keep in mind the concrete evidence available to the public. These conspiracies are based on the speculation like many of the New Age theories. We learned that many of these conspiracies were rooted in truth and some sort of evidence. Nowadays, we see a lot of conspiracism about everything all around us.
Not just that, but everywhere we look, too.
Honestly, that makes a lot of sense. As social media makes information more readily available, it also means that false information and conspiracy theories can spread a lot quicker. That's why it's important to learn what makes something a reliable source.
Exactly. Conspiracy theories are fascinating, but it's important to approach them cautiously and base your beliefs on proven historical facts. Despite knowing that there will always be space for speculation and discussion over secret missions, the official documents and accounts of the Tehran Conference offer super insightful information about what actually happened.
Layers of the hidden plans and controversial hypotheses that reframe historical events have been revealed by today's examination. The failed attempt by Jewish American mobsters to assassinate Hitler, the device hypothesis surrounding the Turin Conference, and the other conspiracies all highlight the complex details that lie outside the surface of major events in history. Thank you for joining us.
This has been Uncovered Histories.
Stay tuned for more intriguing tales that reshape the narratives of our history.
And we hope the rest of your day is filled with conspiracy.